The Honest Edit Podcast, unpacking the truth about life's messes, one honest conversation at a time. With your host, Scarlett, the no-fluff, get-it-done mindset coach, and Holly, your go-to for all things practical, balancing chaos with compassion.
Welcome back to the Honest Edit Podcast, and today we have a special guest with us, our very own producer, Lacey.
Yay! Hi, I'm Lacey Gee, and I'm very excited to be here. We've been talking and working together for a bit, but this is the first time I officially got to meet y'all.
Yeah. I guess we haven't met in person yet, so here we are. We've been doing everything by, virtual or phone calls, and I thought it would be a great episode because you have such a powerful story around positivity, finding yourself, but your journey in your career has been incredible as well. So our Lacey here has been with Kidd Kraddick Show, 97.1. More recently, Radio Misfits out of Chicago. They're expanding into Dallas. And so that's actually how we met because that studio picked our podcast up. Yay.
And you ran your own podcast.
Yeah.
You too. That centers around I know, Taylor Swift.
I have 13 a Taylor Swift fan podcasts. Yeah. It was funny because coming from the Kidd Kraddick Show, we started podcasting like 10 years ago. And my coworkers and I had individual podcasts and then would always get together and talk about Taylor Swift. Well, right before she started her re-recording process, we were like, we're doing it anyway, posting it on all of our podcasts, getting the views, getting everything. Why don't we do a Taylor Swift show? So we had to make sure with legal that that's okay, that you can use her name. And we started breaking down a song and episode with all the albums that she owns. So we started initially with Fearless because Fearless was the first re-record that she released and then had new tracks on that. So yeah, started that 4 years ago. It took off almost immediately. I realized that, shocking, people love Taylor Swift and really don't care that much about me. Like I'm good, but people aren't flocking in to hear about what I'm doing though. Really, really lucky because we started it at the beginning of the re-recording process. Since then, it's been 2 new albums. It's been Eras Tour. It's been football. So she's at the top of her game.
Yeah,
she is the
a lot.
biggest boss woman and super kind and thoughtful and really promotes positivity and acceptance and love everybody. And that's my favorite thing about her is I feel like she teaches me to be a better person, to not be the woman that we were raised to be pitted against each other and be negative. And, now we're in a more female friendly world and
each other. Yes.
And I'm glad that she's like that and encouraging others too as well.
Remind us what your podcast is called.
It's 13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast, and it's everywhere. Everywhere you listen to podcasts, YouTube, you can go to the13podcast.net, and we have a lot of stuff there as well.
One of my besties has traveled all over the world to watch her shows.
Mm-hmm.
And she has some great stories, so she's a big fan.
I went to London, New Orleans, and here in Arlington are the 3 times I got to see her on the Eras Tour.
I love that music's always been a really big part of my life too. And, you just you put on a song and it just hits and it fills your heart. And I love that music is such a big part of my life and it just brings me so much joy. And I agree too, it's what you listen to and what makes you feel right. It's my favorite musical experience. First of all, all my friends know that if we're going to go to a show together, you're not going to see me. Because wherever we're sitting, I'm going to be in the very front row. I'm going to wiggle my way up there, and I'm not leaving until the band's off stage. So everybody knows that part. But being I always get in the front row, and I'm crying as I'm singing all the lyrics, feeling it full on in my body. I remember going to the Dev Hap show, and it just was transformational. And then on my 40th birthday this year, I went to see 311.
That's cool.
I was in the front row, and I was I am in my 20s again. I might be a little stoned. I've been the best time of my life. And I was this is what I had to do for 40. I had to see my favorite band, and it just brought me so much joy. I was so happy for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Totally was sore the next day from like banging.
It happens.
Bruises on your hips from like being in the front. You're like, no, I'm still young and cool. Yeah.
But that's really actually how you started your career. And being a producer is you went to a concert. You got a funnel. Speaking of joints,
Yeah. So I moved here from Warner Robins, Georgia, whenever I was 19. I had done some schooling in Georgia, some college, but not that much. And I had to move here to come to college. And my parents moved here like a year before me. And it was time to start college. And I was like, Mom, I really want to go see this Metallica concert. And she's like, nope, you stayed long enough. College is starting. You've got to come. Well, I was little Warner Robins, Georgia girl, so I hadn't really experienced much. So I didn't realize like concerts travel around. I never had to know that. I just knew whenever they came to Atlanta. So I moved to Weatherford, wasn't working, didn't know anybody yet. And I saw, oh, the concert's getting ready to come through here. So I called my best friend in Georgia and said, I don't have any friends. Come with me to this concert. You can come visit. And at the time, I had just started college and was looking for different classes to take, and I saw an intro to radio, and I thought that looked like fun. Well, we go to this concert, me and my friend, and they're having a pre-party beforehand, a big morning show party, and I showed up, and the morning show guy kept saying, anybody has anything on them, party favors, joint, I want to get high. Finally, I looked at my friend and I said, we're about to go backstage, and I walked up to him and I said, I've got a joint with your name on it. So we went and smoked and talked, and I arrogantly told him I was in radio. Keep in mind, I've barely even cracked open this book that I'm taking for college. And I just kept in contact with them. And then next semester, I emailed and I said, my professor's pushing me to do an internship class. And he said, I'll give you an interview, but you got to come in and get the job yourself. And I walked in and 97 won the Eagle. And
that's awesome.
Got an internship and then had to go back to my professor. Apparently, you're supposed to be a lot further along in college. And so he was like, you can't even take an internship class. And I said, are you really going to not let me have this opportunity because I haven't had enough school? So he did, and pretty much been in radio ever since. I was there at 97.1. This is a weird piece of history. During the Janet Jackson Super Bowl. Which messed up TV and radio for a long time. So to be there as a brand new person, just learning radio and seeing all the downfall.
I mean, a nip slip is so common these days, but it was such a big deal. We saw like 15 years ago?
I think it was 20. Yeah.
That must have been hard just navigating all of that with such a big change in the industry. I would say kind of fake it till I made it. In the beginning of my career, and I did a lot of different things, but I like so proud of you for going for the opportunity and being like, I don't care how old I am doing this because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And like for you to stand up for yourself and you and people to listen to you and like, no, I'm going to go figure this out. And what a great time. Yeah. Even though that all happened, you had to pivot and navigate so fast. And that's like what radio is, right? So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was a great place to start, and just worked my way around after that. I did free overnights on KNON. That's a local station. I flew in a helicopter doing traffic for a while. I had multiple radio jobs and live in Fort Worth, and all my jobs are in Dallas. So I'd have different shifts, and I'd have to like crash at the station for a couple hours and then go to the next place. And yeah, it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
And you're still doing it.
Yes.
Ish. I left full-time radio during my divorce like 3 years ago because I wasn't making enough money. And that was another time that I had to stand up for myself. I went and talked to a job I'd been with for many, many years and had I had all this, what am I trying to say? I had a PowerPoint that I had for them with, here's all the reasons that I deserve a raise. Here's all this. Here's all the things that I do. We haven't had raises in years. And in the end, they looked at me and said, so you want to raise because you're getting divorced? And I said, no, I want to raise for all the reasons that I showed you, and either give me this much more or I'm taking this job, match this offer, or this is my 2-week notice. So that was really, really hard to do. But I realized during my divorce, I had been with someone for years, so I didn't have to make all the financial decisions. I didn't,
Yeah.
I could work a fun job and not bring in that much money. But then whenever the bank's calling me saying, you cannot afford your house that you live in right now, you will not be buying him out with that job. So I had to leave. And that was the moment I had to leave that job. And that's the moment that I realized I really wanted to make some positive changes in my life.
Yes.
At that time, I've always been a rock girl. And the more I listened to it, the harder and harder it would get. I was listening to practically death metal and listening to true crime podcasts all the time. I know women typically love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I
I do.
would watch the shows and listen. And then one day I'm working out, I have a row machine and I'm working out and I'm listening to death metal that's screaming, I hate life in my ear. And then I'm getting in my car and I'm hearing about people being murdered. And I was like, I think that I'm doing this wrong, because if the concept is you are what you take in, then I'm taking in nothing but negativity, but I'm trying to give myself a more positive mindset.
Yeah.
And I realized that that wasn't working.
Yes.
So I started shifting the way that I do things.
Yeah.
It'd be great if we need to murder our ex-husbands.
Yes.
Other than that, it doesn't really spark much for our brain.
And it doesn't make you feel good.
No.
If you're listening to that, then you're just mad.
I can kind of relate to that because I love all things horror. Like I absolutely love scary movies, favorite genre. And I went to school to be a cop. So I was always watching the serial killer shows, or, like it was almost like I was in training. Like, oh, this is what you would, not to kill somebody. I just mean like if you were
We desensitize to
right,
everything.
but it is a lot of negativity.
Mhm.
And that's why I didn't want to be a cop, was because I just didn't want to be in that negative world all the time. And when you're listening to those negative thoughts, that creates the perspective. You're always going to then, at that point, that's your main topic, look for everything else that's negative.
Mhm.
So how can you live a positive life in that?
Mhm.
Like you had mentioned before we started recording that you met Lincoln Park, and that used to
Mhm.
be one of my bands. You saw me, I grabbed you. I was like, oh, I almost felt like I'm still a fan, but I had to stop listening to the music, and of course the lead singer Chester died. But it was just such hard music to listen to
Mhm.
because, again, it's not quite the positive message.
Mhm. Yeah. I took a sharp turn from being this dark metal girly to now I listen to pop music. Absolutely love it. I listen to a lot of feminist music like Paris Paloma and Chaparral Roan and there's trap rap. I love it. I love Nicki Minaj. I love Doja Cat. Like, I don't look like that's what I'm listening to in my car, but I promise you, when people walk up, I'm turning down the volume because I don't want them to hear the stuff that's coming out of my music. But I love it. That puts me in a good mood. That's not putting negative things in my mind or making me feel bad about life. Instead, it's like uplifting, empowering women singing about their own experiences.
Right.
I've never been a scary movie. Like when I was a kid, like I watched Scream and Jeepers Creepers. And after that, I was like, I'm out on any horror stuff because it sits with me more. Like I know that shit really happens in life. This Saw thing, that's real. Like I don't want to being scared isn't fun to me. So when everybody started getting on the true crime podcasts and book clubs sending things around, and I'm like, I'm out. I need to watch Guess How Much I Love You about Little Field Mouse. Like I can't handle that stuff because it sits with me, and I try to edit out the news too because I can't watch all that because
I can't do the news.
Yeah. I'll just cry. I'll just lay in bed and I'll cry and I won't be productive. So I do think that surrounding yourself and filling up your cup with the positivity, the places you want to be. This is why Scarlett's my BF, because she is a go-getter and she's like my mentor now, even though I'm older than her, but she is badass and she's getting things done. And I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, oh, what's Scarlett do? She'd get up and get it done. So I feel like having those people that surround you and that are in your tribe, whether it be music, people you don't know, or celebrities or whatever, that help you stay positive and help you, be who you want to be. Like we all need that. We all need that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I think it really started during the pandemic for me because I didn't know I was going to be getting divorced in the next year, but I knew I was homebound. My ex had to work, so he was out and about often, and so he'd be the one getting the groceries, and he was never scared to be out early on in the pandemic, but he didn't spend time with me. And if I asked for attention or love or time, he's like, I can't entertain you.
Yeah.
So I took that as, well, I mean, I didn't want him to entertain me. I wanted to spend time with him. I say he didn't have time, but he didn't make time. He could have. So during the pandemic, I said, okay, well, if he's telling me this, I need to find hobbies. I need to do this. So I'm not just sitting at home watching TV, waiting for him to come home, waiting for a man who doesn't care to be there to come home. But I hadn't put all that together yet. So instead, I was like, okay, let's not make the hubby mad. I started doing arts and crafts and yoga and riding bikes. And I just realized I'm not going to sit around and wait for you. I need to take actions into my own hands.
Yeah.
We were finding joy in those places and doing some self-care. The pandemic fucked us all. Like I'm still having conversations about it. It was just such a weird time. I was home with a 5-month-old, like being like, oh my God, we're all going to die. And I feel like a lot of people, I think our world definitely changed. Things are never going to be the same. But I also think that a lot of people experienced the same thing. They went through and they were like, wait, now I'm stuck at home. I'm trying to figure out who I am. What am I doing? Like, I have to pivot somehow. And it was like really dark for me for a little bit. But then I like came out on the other side. I'm like, oh, okay. And now, you know, in some of the episodes we were talking about today, I give myself more grace. I'm not going to work to the phone anymore. I'm going to having that time at home and being able to reflect on who you are, what you want, what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then taking that by the reins, literally, and making it a part of your life. I think it just changed everybody in such different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the CEOs are like, get your ass back in your chair and all the things. And we're like, fuck the power. We're going to work it off. So there's the spectrum is broad, but good for you for figuring it out. And now you get to talk about Taylor Swift every day.
Yeah.
So cool.
That is a lot of fun. I don't know what this year is going to look like now that the Eras tour is over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people are going to not listen or want her more, that she's not as available. So we'll see what happens.
There's always going to be a prominent fan base for her, regardless if she keeps going or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's just, and she, as you said before, she promotes that empowerment. She promotes the positivity and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I loved how you were saying as well, talking about when you were married, I feel like you found yourself, even though you were kind of people pleasing your husband a little bit. I mean, I'm guilty of that. And I sort of lost myself in mm-hmm. my own marriage. Mm-hmm. And kind of coming full circle to thank you for all the wonderful, nice things you said about me. I kind of had to find myself too. I had to figure out, what do I like? And even though I loved the scary movies and the crime and, I was going to be a cop and I loved the action stuff and certain music, it's not that I don't like it anymore. I just felt like there's something a little bit better in that positive message. And in finding myself as you did in the things that I love to do now, it's kind of like I wake up and I don't go, oh man, I go, what can I accomplish today? It's just a different mindset where I wake up and I actually want to take on life and I want to do things and I want to see, man, what can we really make today? Mm-hmm. What kind of impact, what creativity, what content. I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting next to you guys doing a podcast. Never. And I still get a little nervous and, whatever, but more practice you do and whatever, it gets better and better and better.
It's also really good when you have an awesome producer.
Yeah. Thank you. But you are supposed to evolve. You are supposed to change. It's okay to change your mind, change your likes, change what it is that you want to do. Yes. I have a Scott F. Fitzgerald quote in my house, and I can't say it verbatim, but it's like, there are no rules to this thing. You can change at any time. You can, So, change your mind, get a different job, pivot,
Yes.
I've been the pivot queen. I've had so many different jobs throughout the way that it's like, okay, this isn't going to work. Well, let me figure this out. But I enjoyed learning and figuring out stuff too. So I don't mind. Haven't done this before, but I can do it as long as I'm way too honest. So if it's something I couldn't do, I'm like, no, do not math me. I cannot account anything.
Can't do that.
No. But other things, it's like, I haven't built a website before, but I'm pretty sure I could do it. You have all the AI. Yeah, you have all the AI tools. And if I couldn't do it, I would admit it and ask somebody else to take care of it.
I think that there's just in my own, and this is from my point of view, but in my own marriage, we've been married for early 8 years, been together for 10. We definitely went through we're different people than we were before. We're different people after we had our kid. And I think that that's just a challenge that I think every woman faces because we're not who we were 20 years ago. There's so many different things that we do in our life and that we take on. And if motherhood's a part of it or not, there's always these different journeys that we're on. And so I feel like our brain works different. We evolve into new humans, we have different thoughts and feelings that once we have an experience, then we have a different thought about those people that experience that. And especially right now where everything is so highlighted with people's experiences and what is, going on, I feel like having these changes and being able to talk about them and not just keep it so close to home, because then you're just holding on to this grief of oh, I'm in this, I don't like that anymore. I want to do this now. And so having that tribe of people or a safe space to, explore the new things. My husband and I kind of went in different directions after we got married. We bought a house and we started remodeling the house, and we were living in a tiny apartment, and I was going crazy. I was working a full-time job. We were living in boxes because we were just waiting to move into this house. And I started doing yoga. And then I was in love with yoga and doing this yoga teacher training and learning all about, the Bhagavad Gita and Bodhisattva, all of these things. And my mind just exploded. I was oh, I have learned and experienced a thing, and I'm a different person. And my husband was I'm not going to meditate. I'm let's meditate. It'll be so good. He's that's not me.
Right.
For so long, I was so angry at him for not joining this thing that I just found that totally changed my mindset. And now we're back on the same page. So I feel like we go through peaks and valleys, especially with the people in our life, because we're not always the people that we are when we get married or when we choose a partner. And then after we have a kid or after we lose a family member or after we finish this big spot in our career. So I think it's good that we remember that not everything stays the same. We're always going to be evolving. And I think the more people that can share that experience and you can hear that you're not alone. You aren't the only one that lost your shit during COVID. These are things that happen to all of us. These are the realizations that we had. So thank you for sharing that with us. Because I know that some of that talk is really vulnerable. And I know that some of my clients, we have those conversations. Because you're how did we get here? I'm well, you were home with 4 kids and a job and teaching math and you just hit menopause. So your body's changing. Nobody's talking about it. And so definitely pivoting and having that happy mindset and changing what you sponge, changing what you bring in is so huge.
And like you said, using your voice, because for so long I was a people pleaser because I obey my husband. That's the mindset that we were given. If he didn't like me to complain whenever he got home, well, I just didn't complain. He didn't want me to talk. I went and talked. So I lost my voice for a long time because I'm oh, I don't want to make him mad.
You're holding all in too, and you're internalizing, and that just sort of eats you up, and then you become resentful. Yeah.
And now I've found my voice. I've had a lot of counseling and I sound like it because whenever I'm with other people, I'm oh, no, you just crossed my boundary. Now I can't trust you. And here's why. And I had some guy tell me one time, he said, I don't want to pay for what someone else did. I said, you're not paying for what someone else did. I'm telling you why this is my reaction to it, why this is non-negotiable. You're going to cross a threshold that you're never going to come back from for this reason. And you're the one who messed up, not the one before you. I'm calling you out on your actions.
Yeah. Sounds like a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But those are boundaries. Those are healthy boundaries of whatever that is. You know, I don't want you to do this, and this is how I feel. And it's just sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he's paying for something somebody else did. That's just your boundary, and he should respect that.
Yeah.
You know, and going back to the whole people pleasing and vibing with your husband or not, or your spouse, partner, whatever, is I was internalizing all the time too, because I was doing that. Oh, I don't, you know, he doesn't like me to do that, or doesn't understand it, or whatever. Like, my husband's not a dancer. He's got 2 left feet, and I've been dancing since I was 2 years old. And my mom's a traditional dancer, by the way. I have to say that nowadays. I'm serious. I say, oh yeah, I'm a dancer. And somebody goes, oh really? You work on the main stage? I'm like, no. But anyways, for 9 years, I really didn't dance at all. And then I met a group of people that do, and I like the yoga and like what you did with the things that you learned that you love to do. I just said, hey, look, I'm going to start doing this now. And we just respect that. And he goes and does things that I really don't care to do, mostly with sports. And I'm like, you go do that.
Yeah.
And it's having that communication. And he just knows it's an absolute respect thing. Yeah.
I was on Bumble last night at my neighbor's house. I was on her Bumble. She just joined, has never been on a dating app before. Well, she was being vicious and just, I don't fly fish. Nope. I don't do this. Nope. And I said, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Look, because you're not going to do everything together just because there are so many gym selfies and hobby is gym on these people's Bumble profile. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I don't work out. I don't want someone who is going to be in the gym 24/7 and watching what they eat. But I was like, just don't be as picky. It's okay. Yeah. If y'all have nothing in common, great. But just because he likes fly fishing and you will not go fly fishing doesn't mean y'all can't still see if you're vibing and he can go fly fishing with the boys for the weekend.
Individualism, having that respect that, okay, yeah, I don't like this, but you should go give yourself that time and go do that thing that you love, you know, and then you can find things that you can do together.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you won't get lost in the relationship, or you won't feel like you're people pleasing too much, or you're holding it all in because you're not communicating those boundaries or those wants or those needs. So yeah.
Therapy definitely helped me with that, to the point where my therapist told me I was codependent. I went to her before I filed and she helped me. I couldn't go to my parents with this. So my immediate friends knew. No one else really knew. So I went to my counselor and she was like, well, you're codependent. You need to work on being individual, not relying on people. Well, my neighbor is a lawyer and she was going to go with me for my first meeting with my lawyer. And she's like, hey, I went to her house. We went and prepped. You have an hour with her. Have everything written down. Have all your paperwork. So you're not looking for stuff while you're there. So you're prepared to go. And she said, do you want me to go with you to your meeting with the lawyer? I said, no, my therapist said I'm codependent, so I think I'm going to start doing stuff by myself. She said, I'm really happy to hear you say that, but I'm going to come with you tomorrow. I said, thank God. I did not want to go. I did not want to go get a divorce by myself. I have no idea what I'm doing.
That was a good friend. And it's a big meeting to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. But since then,
of like, oh, everything's changing.
No, absolutely no idea. But since then, now I am truly independent. And it took me a little bit to get there, but we were together for so long, I didn't have to be independent. I didn't have to be responsible if there's someone else there responsible in the relationship. And so that was different. At first, I ran back to an ex and realized immediately that I was just running, that I didn't want to be with them. That was the last person I was with before. But I still had a miserable situation at home because we were still living together, but in separate beds. So I think I was using the other person as an escape because now I don't have to go home. And then once he got out of my house, I got rid of that fling that I should have never gone back to. Then I realized I can't be running from home anymore. Now this is my home. I'm going to have to make it a home that I love. And I don't have to be out running away because I'm unhappy anymore. And now I love my home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's pink.
Oh, and I didn't yet plan this on.
It's a brick house, but once I bought it, I painted the garage and the front door about that pink. I thought it was supposed to be like a peach with a pink hue. I picked it out, but you can't see it until it's actually on there.
Yes.
Well, my friend painted it and I got out and I was like, wow, that's really, really pink. And he was like, well, I can put other paint on it and make it, tone it down. It was the weekend that Barbie movie came out in theaters. And I said,
wow.
I said, give me the weekend.
Yeah.
I have a shower curtain that says I was not made to be subtle. And that's exactly what my house says. So I looked at it for the weekend and I was like, you know what? No, I love it. So I have
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
bright pink. People ask me, oh, your HOA is okay with that? Well, obviously I don't have an HOA, but now I know how you feel about it. You think that it's tacky. You can't believe HOA allowed that.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't bother me.
No.
I love it. It's not for everybody, but I love it.
I'm about to paint my office maybe like a dirty lavender, pink or purple. And my son told me, Mama, I don't like that color. And I was like, well, you don't have to be in here. And you can go to your room with your color. If Mom say to do what she wants to do in her own room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've always been I grew up with a single dad that ran his own business, and I just had to figure shit out at a young age. And so I don't really ever ask for permission. And that's one thing. New people meet my husband and I, and they're like, Jim lets you do that? I was like, Jim don't let me do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I do what the fuck I want to do. And I asked him if he wants to be invited.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know where I learned that from, because I know that I've been codependent, gone back to ex-boyfriends, all of those things. But I've just had such a, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to ask permission. I'm going to take up, I tell my girlfriends this all the time, take up all of the space. I have a poster in my office that says take up space. Mm-hmm. Take up as much space as you want. You belong here just as much as everyone else does. Mm-hmm. And if you're fighting for your space and you're fighting for your boundaries, you belong even more. So I love the pink house. I love her story. It's just like, I love hearing stories about women figuring out who they are. Mm-hmm. And just not I don't give any more fucks. I'm just going to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I'm going to set my boundaries. I'm going to be a strong, independent woman. And I love that story.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a journey, but I'm 1,000 times happier. Yeah. 1,000 times. Yes. And now I don't mean to, but on my podcast, 13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast, there's 3 happily married people. One of them's newly married. The other 2 have been together since high school. Mm-hmm. Happily married. And then there's me. And sometimes they'll make comments like, oh, if Taylor Swift wrote a song about you and it's this wonderful love song and then y'all break up, would you tell Taylor Swift? Mm-hmm. And they're saying, no, I wouldn't. I couldn't break up because of the... And I was like, don't say it. Don't say it. It was a really sweet love song. Yeah. Then in the end, I was like, for the record, if Taylor Swift ever writes a love song about you, she's written love songs about herself. Doesn't mean you have to stay with that person. If you're ever in a bad situation, get out. You don't have to. And I'm not a divorce pusher, but I do believe in happiness. And sometimes it takes the 2. Yeah. You can't just be in a miserable marriage that's not going to go anywhere. At some point, you make the choice. Whenever I filed for divorce and he was finally served, he said, I knew you were going to pull some crap like this. Mm-hmm. I said, what did you think was going to happen? We've been living in separate bedrooms, not speaking to each other, and just had an anniversary last week. Yeah. Didn't talk. Wow. What did you think was going to happen? He said, I would have never divorced you. We would have stayed. Yeah. We would have stayed
out of this prison.
Yeah.
I had to be gut.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had to make the move, but I felt like the choice was already made. I was just following through and doing something about it.
I think we run into families sometimes and different clients that are kind of in the middle of a separation or, we're separating homes, where dad's moving out, mom's moving out. And it's a tricky situation because, you gotta stay neutral. Yeah. And, I'm always the counselor. And so sometimes, it's hard because you want to be understanding and help let me use a word you don't like, help motivate and help understand that yes, this is a part of this really messy thing that you're doing, but you're going to be better on the other side. So we're going to help you just get all the tangible stuff in line. And so it does get, there has been some hard times with that. And so, I think our job is always just to be super sensitive. And
Just listen.
listen and help guide. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I've had some clients where you're watching their marriage deteriorate because of all the problems they have going on with the house, too much clutter, too much this. They're arguing at each other. They're kind of passive aggressive, and it's just you just gotta stay focused, keep them focused, give them tasks. But yeah, I mean,
It is.
but they do pull through. But if they don't, then that's okay too. And you have the courage to just make that decision and make that happen. You deserve more.
We're all adults. Life has humbled me so hard. I don't judge. I used to judge. Now I'm like, whew.
Yeah.
I plan my month by a week basis. Like I'm trying to plan today for next week. So I don't judge anymore. I just recently had a friend come stay with me, separated, thought he was leaving for a night, then didn't want him back. So he ended up staying with me. Good friend, been good friends with both of them. I called his wife the next day just to say, hey, he's staying with me. Don't worry, everything's fine. They ended up switching out every other week because they had kids. So one would come stay at my house, one would be with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had to do the marriage counseling thing for a while and not interject my own thoughts, feelings, and experiences and just listen to both of them. And I told them I'm not going to be a go-between for either one of you. You want to tell me anything, you can. Feel free. I'm here for you. And
That's a good friend. I've done that before. I had to be in the middle. And I was like, I love both of you, but y'all got to figure it out. So that's big. Good for you. And you're you're grounded. You're not wigging out you did your therapy, guys. Therapy works.
big time.
Everybody get online, find that therapist.
Yeah.
It's good to listen to.
Or just self-development or putting the good stuff in. So for me, I couldn't do the therapy thing because I feel like I'm just talking too much about my problems. So for me, it's just what I was listening to. So I would always put on people that I felt like could be a mentor to me, even though they'd never met me, but I'm listening to their message and what they have to say and listening to high upbeat sort of music that just is uplifting and puts me in a good mood and makes me feel energetic. And I still do that first thing in the morning till this day. And it's just all that self-development work that I've been doing. And then that's where I carry it into what I do every day or who I am, or I've never done a podcast before, but here we are. So you just go out and you figure it out, you get it done, and you learn more about yourself.
And as a professional and a producer, I can tell y'all, you are doing a very good job. You both are. I'm amazed. Whenever I got asked if I could work with y'all, I checked out the episodes and I was like, what do they need? Because they're already killing it. I really love your content. I love the positivity. I love what y'all are putting out there.
Well, thank you for also working with us and being a guest for this episode. And we felt it was just, again, very important to share, what's going on behind the scenes and who we get to work with every day.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear about y'all's lift me up things. What quotes do you love? What podcast, what is your favorite song? What gets you going and motivated in the morning? I love that We Can Do Hard Things podcast with Glennon and Addie. I love them so much. It's so empowering. I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. That's my favorite. So we'd love to hear all of your favorites. Check out We Can Do Hard Things. Check out
13, a Taylor Swift fan podcast.
Yeah. And we'll link a link. We'll link a link to Lacey's podcast too, so you can check that out. And again, we're all on Misfits Radio.
Yes.
So you can go there and listen to all their podcasts, and they also have links for all the different platforms that you can catch both of us at. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. What a wonderful day with y'all. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace out, guys. We'll see you next time.
The Honest Edit Podcast. Unpacking the truth about life's messes, one honest conversation at a time. with your host, Scarlett, the no fluff, get it done mindset coach, and Holli, your go-to for all things practical, balancing chaos with compassion.